Hey Knight, so this is 21 and 22. So, Chapter 21, Army of Ghosts. Jessie smiled as she bowed into the flat shield used. Sky, it's us, she shouted, swinging her duffel bag in her arms. We're back! I don't know why you even bother with the phone when you never use it, Sky shouted before running down the hallway smiling widely. Shut up, Jessie laughed. Come here. Sky hugged her tightly. Oh, I love you. I love you. The doctor tried to make his way past, but Sky winked at Jessie and turned to him. Oh, no, you don't, she warned. Come here. He squeaked when she grabbed a hold of him and kissed him. Jessie laughed hard at that, and the doctor threw her look over Sky's shoulder. All right, I got loads of washing to do, she told Sky, handing her the duffel bag she had. And I got you this, she added, going through her pockets and finding the metal tool she had. It's from the market on this asteroid bazaar we just visited. It's made of... She shook her head, forgetting what it was called, and she turned to the doctor. What's it called? He looked up from whatever he was looking at. Bazulium, he replied matter-of-factly. She grinned, shaking her head. Bazulium, right. She turned back to Sky. Anyways, when it gets cold, it means it's going to rain, and when it gets hot, it's going to be sunny, she grinned. You can use it to tell the weather. Sky took a deep breath. Jessie, doctor, there's something going on here. Jessie narrowed her eyes. What? They've been coming all the time. Sky headed for the kitchen, slipping the Bazulium trinket into her pocket. She swallowed. Just the other day, I thought I saw Linda Avery. Jessie's drop. Oh my god. What? The doctor asked, looking up again. Linda Avery, Jessie replied, swallowing. She's the agent that found Sky, but she died years ago. Sky looked at her watch. In fact, they'll be coming any time now. She's dead, Jessie insisted. I know that, Sky replied. Then how can she come back? Ask her yourself, Sky looked up. 10 past. There's a warping in the air, and a humanoid shape walked through a wall, and Sky nodded. Here we are, Agent Linda Avery. The doctor's jaw fell open, and he quickly ran for the door. Jessie followed. Doctor, she shouted. She nearly ran into him when he stopped outside the flats, and they're everywhere, he sputtered. Jessie looked around, seeing nobody was scared of them, when one approached the doctor. Doctor, she called in warning. He turned, but the ghost walked right through him, and he shuddered. Sky ran up, looking around. They haven't got long. Midday shift only lasts a couple of minutes. They're about to fade. What do you mean, shift? The doctor asked, looking around still. Since when did ghosts have shifts? Since when did shifts have ghosts? What's going on? Sky smirked. Oh, he's not happy when I know more than him, is he? But no one's running or screaming or freaking out. I know, Sky said, looking at her watch. That's why Coulson sent me here. Here we go, 12 past. The ghost shimmered out of existence, and the doctor slowly shook his head. This is wrong. It's all over the world, the doctor muttered as he flipped through channels, seeing many reports on ghosts. He turned them off, then turned to Sky. When did it start? My friend Peggy heard this noise in her cellar, so down she went. Worldwide, Jessie said with a grin. S.H.I.E.L.D. started getting reports 2 months ago, Sky replied, bringing up her tablet. Just happened. People woke up one morning, and they were all there. Ghosts everywhere. They weren't on the bus, though, but the whole planet was panicking. No sign of you, thank you very much, she added snarkily, and the doctor huffed. Then it seemed to sink in. Took the time to realize that she made air quotes, lucky. What made you think it's an Agent Avery? Jessie asked. I don't know. It just felt like her, Sky replied, pulling her legs up. That feeling when I was a child, I just felt that way. The more you want it, the stronger it gets, the doctor said. Sky nodded. Yeah. Like a psychic link, the doctor nodded. Of course you want the agent who saved you to be alive, but you're wishing her into existence. The ghosts are using that pull to pull themselves in. I'm sorry, Sky, but there's no feeling, just a memory. So if they're not ghosts, then what are they? Jessie asked. They look human, Sky pointed out. Sort of blurred, but they're definitely people, Jessie agreed. Maybe not, the doctor said thoughtfully. They're pressing themselves into the surface of this world, but a footprint doesn't look like a boot. Jessie raised an eyebrow, sitting on the console in the TARDIS as she read something. According to the news, they elected a ghost for MP as for Leeds, she announced, turning her tablet off. Now don't tell me you're going to sit back and do nothing. As if on cue, the doctor hopped up from below the console, and Jessie burst out laughing at the backpack he wore with some sort of hose connected to it. Who are you going to call? He asked. Jessie laughed even harder. Ghostbusters, she sang. I ain't afraid of no ghosts, the doctor countered with a grin as he ran outside, grabbing metal cones with wires connected to them. Sky, he called, when's the next shift? "2:15, she replied, looking at what he's doing in bewilderment. "What's all this do?" "Triangulates their point of origin," the doctor replied, still working. "I don't suppose it's the Gulf?" Jessie asked, hoping she was wrong. "Nah," she replied, and she sighed in relief. "They were just coming through one little rift. This lot are transporting themselves over the whole planet, like tracing paper." He looked up, the huge power cable in his hand. "Jessie, give me a hand." Jessie helped him plug in the power cable to the TARDIS console. As soon as the cone activates, if that line goes into red, he pointed at the line across the scanner. He pointed to the console. "Press that button there. If it doesn't stop," he handed her the screwdriver. "Setting 15B, he informed her. "Hold it against the port 8 seconds and stop." 15B, 8 seconds, she repeated, just to be sure. "If it goes into the blue, activate the deep scan on the left." "I know," she pointed to the button. She was sure she was right. "Push that one." He shook his head. "Close." Jessie narrowed her eyes, shifting her finger. "That one?" she guessed. The doctor snorted. "Now you've just killed us." Jessie rolled her eyes. "That one?" she asked, exaggerating her point. He grinned. "Yeah. Now we've got—" He checked her watch. 2 minutes to go? He ran outside. Skye walked over behind her, and a few seconds later, the doctor shouted into the door. "What's the line doing?" Jessie looked at the scanner again as the cones activated. "It's all right," she shouted back. "It's holding." "You even look like him," Skye commented. She threw her a look. "How do you mean?" Skye raised an eyebrow, and Jessie looked down, seeing how she was at the console. "I suppose I do," she conceded. "You've changed so much." Jessie shrugged. "For the better." "I suppose." "Now what's that supposed to mean?" Jessie asked, turning sharply. "Skye, I'd rather be here without a clue of what I'm running into than just parading into somewhere where I know I could die." "That's what we do," Skye retorted. "What's wrong with that?" Jessie sighed, shaking her head. "I didn't mean that." "I know what you meant," Skye sighed. "But what happens when you're gone?" Jessie looked up at her sharply. "Don't talk like that." "Really?" Skye insisted. "When I'm dead and buried, you won't have any reason to come back home. What happens then?" Jessie shook her head. "I don't know," she admitted. Then she blinked. "God, it's blazing," she muttered, taking off her jacket. Skye looked confused. "I think it's rather comfortable." Jessie put her jacket on the captain's chair, then returned to the console. "Not me." "Well, do you think you'll ever settle down?" Skye asked, going back to her interrogation. "The doctor never will," Jessie said briefly, "so I can't. I'll just keep waiting, keep on traveling." "And you'll keep on changing." Jessie stopped, hearing Skye keep talking. "In 40 years, maybe 50, there'll be this woman, this strange woman, walking through the marketplace on some planet 1,000,000 miles from Earth." Jessie slowly turned, seeing Skye look at her. "And something she didn't want to name. But she's not Jessie Nightshade. Not anymore. She's not even human." "Here we go," the doctor shouted. "God bless you, doctor," she thought in relief as she turned back to the scanner. "The scanner's working," she called back to him, seeing the readings. "It says Delta 1-6. After a few moments, the scanner went down. The doctor ran inside, the cones in his hands. "I said so," he crowed. "Those ghosts have been forced into existence from one specific point, and I can track down the source." He grinned, flipping a few levers. "Alonzi?" Jessie yelped as the TARDIS jerked, sending her into the console. The doctor tilted his head thoughtfully. "I like that," he said. "Alonzi." She grinned at him as he began to babble. "I should say Alonzi more often. Alonzi!" He came around the console, pointing at her. "Watch out, Jessie," Knight said. "Alonzi!" He grinned, stopping by her. "And then it would be really brilliant if I met someone called Alonso, because then I could say, 'Alonzi, Alonzo,' every time." She gave him a pointed look, and he tilted his head. "You're staring at me." She smirked. "Skye's still on board." The doctor slowly turned to Skye, who was sitting on the railing, her arms folded. "If we end up on Mars, I'm going to kill you," she stated. The doctor looked at the scanner as they materialized, and he raised an eyebrow as several armed soldiers surrounded them. "Oh, well, there goes the advantage of surprise," he commented. "Still cuts to the chase." He turned to Jessie. "Stay in here. Look after Skye." "I'm not looking after Skye," Jessie snorted. "What? Well, you brought her." "I was kidnapped," Skye screeched. "Doctor, they've got guns," Jessie warned. "And I haven't," he countered. "Which makes me the better person, don't you think? They can shoot me dead, but the moral high ground is mine." He didn't give her a chance to respond before he opened the doors. Guns cocked all around him, and he held up his hands. He heard the clicking of heels, and a woman in black dress with bouncy blonde hair ran in. "Oh!" she screeched, and he looked at her in surprise. "Oh, how marvelous! Oh, very good! Superb! Happy day!" She began clapping, followed by the soldiers. The doctor looked around, confused, and he lowered his arms. Thanks," he said awkwardly. "Nice to meet you. I'm the doctor." "Oh, I should say," the woman said eagerly, clapping again, followed by the others. "Hurrah!" He looked around, blinking. You've heard of me, then?" "Well, of course we have," she chirped, "and I have to say, if it wasn't for you, none of us would be here. The doctor and the TARDIS." He felt the need to roll his eyes when they all clapped once more, but then stopped himself from doing it. "And you are?" he asked. She waved her hand. "Oh, plenty of time for that. But according to the records, you're not one for traveling alone. The doctor and his companion. That's a pattern, isn't it? Right? There's no point hiding anything, not from us. He raised an eyebrow. She looked behind him at the TARDIS in expectation. So, where is she? Yes, the doctor said quickly. Sorry, good point. She's just a bit shy, that's all. He opened the TARDIS door, not looking around and grabbing the first person he could. He dragged her out, and he felt slightly relieved when it was Skye, and not Jessie. But here she is, Jessie Nightshade. He made a show looking her over, unable to resist an opportunity to jab at her. She's not the best I've ever had. Bit too brunette. Not too steady on her pins, but a lot of that. He made a talking motion with his hand, ignoring the glare Skye was giving him. And just last week, she stared into the heart of the TARDIS and aged 30 years. But she'll do. I'm 30, Skye hissed at him. Deluded, the doctor said cheerfully. Bless, I'll have to trade her in. Skye's jaw dropped, and the woman gave him an odd look. Do you need anyone? She's very good at tea. He reconsidered. Well, I say very good. I mean, not bad. He shook his head. Anyway, lead on, Alonzi, but not too fast. Her ankle's going. I'll show you where my ankle's going, Skye growled out as they followed the woman. It was only a matter of time until you found us. At least you've made it, the woman said. I'd like to welcome you, Doctor. She flung open the double doors in front of them. Welcome to Torchwood. The doctor recognized the name immediately, and when he looked around, he didn't recognize what it had turned into. They were in a huge warehouse with crates and jeeps and trucks, and that's a Jathar Sunglider, he said in recognition, looking at the contraption Skye was eyeing. Came down to Earth off the Shetland Islands 10 years ago, the woman agreed. What, did it crash? No, we shot it down. He jerked his head at her so fast that he almost got whiplashed. It violated our airspace, she continued casually, as if she was talking about the weather. Then we stripped it bare. The weapons that destroyed the Psycrux on Christmas Day? That was us. The doctor and Skye stared at her in disbelief. Now, if you'd like to come with me, the two shared a look, but followed nonetheless. The Torchwood Institute has a motto. If it's alien, it's ours. Anything that comes from the sky, we strip it down and we use it for the good of the British Empire. For the good of the what? Skye asked. The British Empire. Skye wrinkled her nose. There isn't a British Empire. Not yet. Skye raised an eyebrow as the woman stopped a man passing by with a large gun. Ah, excuse me. Now, if you wouldn't mind. He handed to her and then turned to the doctor, holding the gun up. Do you recognize this, Doctor? He did. That's a particle gun, he answered. Good, isn't it? She asked, looking it over. Took us 8 years to get it to work. He stared at her. It's the 21st century. You can't have particle guns. We must defend our border against the alien, she said promptly, handing the gun back. Thank you. Sebastian, isn't it? He nodded. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sebastian. She turned to the doctor as Sebastian left. I think it's very important to know everyone by name. Torchwood is a very modern organization. People skills. That's what it's all about these days. I'm a people person. Considering her gob, Skye muttered lowly. The doctor, still on the whole Alonzo thing, tilted his head, looking out the window. Have you got anyone called Alonzo? She shook her head. No, I don't think so. Is that important? The doctor sighed. No, I suppose not. What was your name? Yvonne, she replied. Yvonne Hartman. Something caught the doctor's eye, and he walked over, picking up what seemed to be a black step-stool-like contraption with a handle. Ah, yes, Yvonne said, joining him. Now, we're rather fond of these. The Magna Clamp. Found in a spaceship right at the base of Mount Snowdown. Attach this to an object and it cancels the mass. I could use it to lift 2 tons of weight with a single hand. She gave Skye a look. That's an imperial ton, by the way. Torchwood refuses to go metric. I could do with that for our shopping, Skye commented absently. After all, these devices are for Torchwood's benefits, not the general public's, Yvonne said. So what about the ghosts? The doctor said, turning to her. Ah, yes, Yvonne said, smiling. The ghosts. They're, what you might call a side effect. Of what? She smiled at him. All in good time, Doctor. There's an itinerary, trust me. Hey, Skye suddenly exclaimed as the doctor turned to see a truck driving off with the TARDIS. His eyes widened. Where are you taking that? If it's aliens, it's ours, Yvonne recited smugly. You'll never get inside it, the doctor said. Jessie ran to the door when she felt the TARDIS get loaded on. She poked her head out a little to see that Torchwood woman babbling on. Skye was looking around in surprise. The doctor, however, was looking right at her. He nodded to her, and Jessie closed the door. She ran to his coach, which hung next to hers over the captain's chair. Psychic paper, she muttered, digging through his pocket. Psychic paper. All those times I've been on Earth, I've never heard of you, the doctor said conversationally as they walked down the corridor. But of course not, Yvonne replied. You're the enemy. The doctor looked at her in surprise, and Skye raised an eyebrow. You're actually named in the Torchwood Foundation Charter of 1879 as an enemy of the Crown. 1879, he repeated. That was called Torchwood, that house in Scotland. That's right, where you encountered Queen Victoria and the werewolf. Oh, really now? Sky asked sarcastically. And I thought you made up half your stuff. Her Majesty created the Torchwood Institute with the express intention of keeping Britain great and fighting the alien horde, Yvonne continued. If I'm the enemy, does that mean I'm a prisoner? The doctor asked hesitantly. Yvonne nodded. Oh, yes. The doctor blinked in surprise. But we'll make you perfectly comfortable. There is so much you can teach us. She turned the corner, entering a lab. Starting with this. The doctor stopped short when they entered the lab, feeling something wrong. Sky gasped softly, stepping next to him as they looked at a giant blank sphere. The doctor's thoughts started going. Now, what do you make of that? Yvonne asked. The man at a computer nearly stood up. You must be the doctor, he said, walking up and holding out a hand. Rajesh Singh. It's an honor, sir. Yeah, the doctor replied absently. What is that thing? Sky asked. We got no idea, Yvonne replied. But what's wrong with it? Sky insisted. Good girl, the doctor thought, heading towards it. What makes you think there's something wrong with it? Rajesh asked. I don't know, it just feels weird, Sky replied. Well, the sphere has that effect on everyone, Yvonne said. Makes you want to run and hide, like it's forbidden. We tried analyzing it using every device imaginable, Rajesh continued as the doctor pulled 3D glasses out of his pockets and climbed up the ladder up the sphere. But according to our instruments, the sphere doesn't exist. It weighs nothing. It doesn't age, no heat, no radiation, has no atomic mass. But I can see it, Sky deadpan, and the doctor smirked a little as he continued his examination, seeing the fuzzy stuff around it through the 3D glasses. Fascinating, isn't it? Rajesh asked. It upsets people because it gives off nothing. It is absent. Well, doctor, Yvonne called. He didn't turn away. This is a void ship. And what is that? She asked impatiently. He turned around, taking off his glasses. Well, it's impossible for starters, he said bluntly. I always thought it was a theory, but it's a vessel designed to exist outside of time and space, traveling through the void. And what's the void? Rajesh asked. The space between dimensions, he replied. There's all sort of realities around us, different dimensions, billions of parallel universes, all stacked upon each other. The void is the space in between, containing absolutely nothing. Sky's eyebrows shot up. Imagine that. Nothing. No light, no dark, no up, no down, no life, no time. Without end. My people decided to call it the void. The internals called it hollowing. He looked down at them all. But some people call it hell. Sky snorted. Rajesh threw her a look, but then turned back to the doctor. But someone built the sphere. What for? He asked. Why go there? To explore, the doctor suggested, shrugging and leaning against the sphere. To escape, you could sit inside the thing, and eternity would pass you by. The Big Bang, end of the universe, start of the next. Wouldn't even touch the sides. You'd exist outside the whole of creation. Yvette smiled. You see, we were right. There is something inside. Oh, yes, the doctor confirmed with a nod. So, how do we get in there? Rajesh asked. The doctor raised an eyebrow. We don't. He ignored their looks of surprise as he jumped down from the top of the ladder. We send that thing back into hell. How did it get here in the first place? Well, that's how it all started, Yvonne said. The sphere came into this world, and the ghost followed in its wake. The doctor stared at her. Show me. Jessie slowly stepped out of the TARDIS, checking to make sure no one was around. She put the psychic paper into her pocket and checked to make sure that the purple blouse she wore covered her gun. She crept over to a table nearby, and she grabbed one of the lab coats there, put it on, and then continued to walk. The sphere came through here, Yvonne exclaimed as they came to a white room, pointing to a blank wall on the far side. A hole in the world, not active at the moment, but when we fire particle engines at the exact spot, the breach opens up. How did you even find it? The doctor asked in surprise. We were getting warning signs for a year, Yvonne replied. A radar black spot, so we built this place, Torchwood Tower. The breach was 600 foot above sea level. It was the only way to reach it. You built a skyscraper just to reach a spatial disturbance? The doctor asked as Sky left his side. How much money have you got? Enough, Yvonne replied simply. Hold on a minute. The doctor turned to see Sky looking out a window. We're in Conway Wharf, he said, turning. Must be. This building, it's Conway Wharf. Well, this is the public name for it, Yvonne acknowledged as Sky looked around in astonishment. But those in the know, it's Torchwood. The doctor shook his head. So you find the breach, probe it, the sphere comes through 600 feet above London, bam. It leaves a hole in the fabric of reality. In that hole, you think, oh, shall we leave it alone? Shall we back off? Shall we play it safe? He shook his head angrily. Nah, you think, let's make it bigger. It's a massive source of energy, Yvonne stated. If we can harness that power, we need never depend on the Middle East again. Britain will become truly independent. She checked her watch. Look, you can see it for yourself. Next ghost shifts in 2 minutes. The doctor blanched. Cancel it, he ordered. I don't think so, Yvonne retorted. I'm warning you. Cancel it. Oh, exactly as the legends would have it, Yvonne spat. The doctor, lording it over us, assuming alien authority over the rights of man. The doctor growled, getting out his screwdriver. Let me show you. Sphere comes through. He pointed the screwdriver out our window, and it began to crack. But when it made the hole, it cracked the world around it. The entire surface of this dimension splintered. And that's how the ghosts get through. That's how they get everywhere. He kept aiming it, and then the glass kept cracking more and more. They're bleeding through the fault lines, walking from their world across the void and into yours, with the human race hoping and wishing and helping them along. But too many ghosts, and he tapped the car's glass lightly, and it shattered all around. Sky's eyes widened in astonishment. Yvonne barely blinked. Well, in that case, we'll have to be more careful, she commented, turning to the people in the room. Positions, she called out. Go shift in 1 minute. Miss Hartman, I'm asking you, please don't do it. We have done this 1,000 times. Then stop at 1,000. We're in control of the ghosts, Yvonne told him. The levers can open the breach, but equally they can close it. The doctor stared at her and decided to let her stew. Okay, he commented, heading to her office. She blinked. Sorry? She asked. Never mind, he said, pulling up a chair and plopping down. As you were. What? Is that it? She sputtered. Not fair enough. No, fair enough, he said, bluffing his way through and leaning back. Said my bit, don't mind me. He looked around. Any chance a cup of tea? A dark-scared woman turned to Yvonne. Go shift in 20 seconds, she reported. The doctor nodded, ignoring his pounding hearts. Can't wait to see it. You can't stop us, Doctor, Yvonne said, looking nervous now. He nodded. No, absolutely not. He smiled at Skye. Pull up a chair, Jessie. Come and watch the fireworks. You're mad, she mouthed to him. But she joined him warily. Go shift in 10 seconds, the dark-skinned woman continued. The doctor didn't break his gaze away from Yvonne as she fidgeted. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2... Stop the shift, Yvonne finally yelled, and the doctor looked at Skye in satisfaction. I said stop. Everyone stopped what they were doing, and the doctor nodded to Yvonne. Thank you. Yvonne huffed and looked at him. I suppose it makes sense to get as much intelligence as possible, but the program will recommence as soon as you've explained everything. The doctor nodded. I'm glad to be of help. And someone clear up this glass, Yvonne added, looking down at the glass chips around her feet. They did warn me, Doctor. They said you like to make a mess. Yvonne added a few more people, then began to follow a scientist with a lab coat walking down the... No, sorry. Jessie avoided a few more people, then began to follow a scientist with a lab coat walking down the corridors. He stopped at a door, then held up a badge. He entered through the door, and slowly Jessie approached. She looked down at the psychic paper, then held it up to the entry reader. She smiled when it let her in. She took a few steps in, then stopped dead. She stared up at the blank sphere, and she felt a chill go up her spine. What in the name of Odin? She wondered. Can I help you? She jumped, looking at the man who approached, the name Rajash sign on his shirt. I was just, she said warily, pointing weakly at the sphere. Try not to look, he said, taking her arm and turning her away. It does that to everyone. What do you want? Sorry, she said, turning. Showtime. They sent me from personnel. They said some man had been taken prisoner, some sort of doctor. I'm just checking the lines of communication. Did they tell you anything? He narrowed his eyes at her. Can I see your authorization? She shrugged. Sure. He handed him the psychic paper. He took a look and raised an eyebrow. That's lucky. He looked back at her. You see, everyone at Torchwood has at least a basic level of psychic training. She blinked, and Rajak swayed the psychic paper smirking. This paper is blank and you're a fake. She opened her mouth for Spawn, but he headed for his desk. Seal the room, call security. He looked over at someone working on the other side of the room. Miranda, can you check the door locks? She just walked right in. Doing it now, sir. Jessie's eyes widened. No. She turned to see a familiar redhead in a lab coat wearing a silvery gray top and black cargo pants at another computer, smirking at her. Celine, she mouthed in shock. Celine gave her a quick thumbs up, quickly turning back to when Rajash turned around. Well, he said smugly, gesturing to... Stop catching my shirt. To Jessie. If you'd like to take a seat. So these ghosts, whatever they are, Yvonne said as they gathered in her office. Did they build the sphere? Must have, the doctor agreed, still lounging in his chair, aimed it at this dimension like a cannonball. Yvonne, the doctor raised an eyebrow when he heard Rajash's voice from Yvonne's laptop. I think you should see this. We've got a visitor. The doctor flashed a quick look at Sky as Yvonne raised an eyebrow at whatever was on the screen. We don't know who she is, but funnily enough, she arrived at the same time as the doctor. Yvonne turned her computer around, and it took everything in the doctor's power not to react when he saw Jessie in a lab coat next to Rajash, looking at him guiltily. She's one of yours, Yvonne asked. Never seen her before in my life, the doctor tried to bluff again. Good, Yvonne commented. Then we can have her shot. Jessie blinked, and the doctor straightened. Oh, all right then, he sighed. It was worth a try. He nodded to her. That's Jessie Nightshade. Sorry, she said apologetically before giving a little wave. Hello. Well, if that's Jessie Nightshade, who's she? Yvonne asked, looking at Sky in confusion. I'm a team member, Sky replied promptly. Yvonne raised an eyebrow. Oh, you travel with her team? He kidnapped me, Sky whined. Please, when Torchwood comes to write my history, don't tell people I traveled through time and space with her team members, the doctor pleaded. There was a clunk outside, and Sky glared at him. Charming. Yvonne stood from her chair, going outside. Excuse me, everyone. The doctor stood, his eyes widening when he saw monitors flashing. I thought I said to stop the ghost shift. He joined Yvonne, looking around. Who started the program? But I ordered you to stop. What? Who's doing that? The levers, Sky said, pointing to the levers, which were moving to the on position. Yvonne turned to the three workers on the computer. Right, step away from the monitors, everyone, she ordered. Gareth, Addie, stop what you're doing right now. They didn't respond. Matt, step away from your desk. That's an order. Stop the levers. She turned, panicked, to one of the men. Andrew. He ran to one of the levers. Stop the levers. What's she doing? The doctor asked, following Yvonne over to the woman's desk. Addie, step away from the desk, Yvonne ordered. But Addie kept on working, and the doctor froze when he saw 2 pods in her ears. It can't be, he thought. But the way Addie was working expressionlessly. Listen to me, Yvonne insisted. Step away from the desk. She can't hear you, the doctor said numbly. They're overriding the system. He looked up at the blank wall. We're going into ghost shift. He pointed to Addie's ears. It's the earpiece. It's controlling them. He swallowed, taking out his sonic screwdriver. I've seen this before. He leaned down to her. Sorry, he apologized. I'm so sorry. He aimed and pressed the button. Addie screamed immediately, slumping over on her desk. The 2 men screamed as well. Before they slumped over too. What happened? Yvonne demanded as he inspected Addie further. What did you just do? They're dead, he reported. You killed them? Sky squeaked. Oh, someone else did that long before I got here, the doctor said darkly. But you killed them. He made a noise of frustration. Sky, I haven't got time for this. He stood, going to the center of the room. What are those earpieces? Yvonne asked, looking at Addie. Don't, the doctor warned. But they're standard comm devices. How does it control them? Trust me, leave them alone. But what are they? Yvonne abandoned asking him and pulled one of Abby's. She yelped in shock when gray matter came with it. Sky made a wrenching noise. Ugh, Yvonne screeched, dropping it immediately. Oh God, it goes inside their brain. What about the ghost shift? The doctor asked. Yvonne checked Addie's monitor. 90% there and still running, she replied. He sighed and she looked up at him. Can't you stop it? They're still controlling it, he muttered. They've hijacked the system. Who's they? Yvonne asked. It might be a remote transmitter, but it's got to be close by, the doctor muttered, thinking fast. It might be a remote transmitter, but it's got to be close by, the doctor muttered, thinking fast. He turned, pointing at Sky. Sky, stay here. Keep those levers down, Yvonne ordered, following the doctor as he headed outside. Keep them offline. Jessie's eyes widened as she watched the sphere begin to move. The door's sealed, Rajash said, checking the locks. Automatic quarantine. We can't get out. It's all right, Jessie turned as Celine walked out, cracking her knuckles. We've beaten them before. We can beat them again. That's why I'm here. The fight goes on. The fight against what? Jessie asked. What do you think? You two, come with us, Yvonne ordered as the doctor tracked the signal with the sonic screwdriver. Two soldiers going past joined them. Yes, ma'am. The doctor looked down a hallway. What's down here? He asked. I don't. Yvonne shook her head, looking around. I don't know. I think it's building work. It's just renovations. He looked at her as he walked forward. You should go back. She glared at him. Think again. He pushed aside the plastic curtains and kept walking further into the hallway. What is it? Yvonne asked. What's down here? Earpieces, ear pods. The doctor shook his head, a sinking feeling in his stomach. This world's colliding with another, and I think I know which one. Black shapes began appearing behind the curtains. What are they? Yvonne asked. They came through first, the advance guard. The curtains were ripped open, and the doctor stared face to face with familiar enemies. Cybermen. We had them beaten, but they escaped, Selene exclaimed, putting an arm around Jessie and backing them up. The Cybermen just vanished. They found a way through it to this world, but so did we. The doctor said that was impossible, Jessie managed to say. Yeah, it's not the first time he's been wrong, Selene countered. What's inside that sphere? Jessie asked. Selene shrugged. No one knows. Cyber Leader, Cyber King, Emperor of the Cybermen. She shook her head. Whatever it is, he's dead meat. Jessie smiled. It's good to see you. Selene gave her a wide smile. Yeah, it's good to see you too. Get away from the machines, the doctor ordered as the Cybermen led him and Yvonne back to the living room. Do what they say. Don't fight them. Sky ran to him as the Cybermen shot the men holding down the levers. What are they? She asked. One of the Cybermen turned to her. We are the Cybermen, it answered. The ghost ship will be increased to 100%. Online, a computer voice announced overhead. The doctor steeled himself. Here comes the ghosts. Creaks and thunks echoed from inside the sphere, and Selene took out her earpiece and shrugged her coat off. Here we go, she muttered. The sphere cracked open, and Jessie's eyes widened when she saw a black hole appear. But these Cybermen, Sky whispered, what they've got to do with the ghosts. Do you never listen? The doctor asked. He swallowed. A footprint doesn't look like a boot. The ghost-like forms of humans shimmered into rows in front of them. Achieving full transfer, the Cyberman announced. They're Cybermen, the doctor stated. All of the ghosts are Cybermen, millions of them, right across the world. The ghosts solidified, and a full legion of Cybermen turned to face them. They've been invading the whole planet, Yvonne realized with a gasp. It's not an invasion, the doctor said darkly. It's too late for that. It's a victory. Sphere activated. He turned when he heard the voice from Addie's computer. Sphere activated. Sphere activated. Sphere activated. I know that what's in there, Selene said, going to the platform under the sphere, and I'm ready for them. I just got this thing. She hefted a huge gun out of from underneath, bringing it over. This thing, she grinned. It's gonna blast them to hell. Miranda, Rajesh gasped, joining them. What are you doing? Selene threw him a look. That's Selene, she said. The name's Selene, she said. Selene Harper, defending the Earth. She cocked the gun. Any time now. But I don't understand, the doctor said, turning to the head Cyberman. The Cybermen don't have the technology to build a void ship. That's way beyond you. How did you create that sphere? The sphere is not ours, the Cyber Leader reported. The doctor blinked. What? The sphere broke down the barriers between the worlds, the Cyber Leader said. We only followed. Its origin is unknown. Then what's inside it? Sky grabbed his arm. Jessie is down there. The sphere disappeared in a blaze of light. Jessie held a hand up over her eyes to block her sight, but she saw the four object-like pepper pots glide out. Her eyes widened, and she lowered her hand in shock. That's not Cyberman, Selene said, backing up. Oh my god, Jessie whispered in shock. No, no. Location, Earth, a familiar voice said as they glided out. Life forms detected. Exterminate. Exterminate, the Daleks chorused, and Jessie swallowed hard, facing the fact that one of the things she feared the most was here. Exterminate. Exterminate. Chapter 22? Right? It's 22? Yeah, 22. Doomsday. Exterminate, the Daleks continued as they landed. Exterminate, exterminate. Jessie had had enough. Dalek, she called out, and they skidded to a halt, seeming surprised. She liked the black one, the leader, right in the eye stalk. You're called Daleks. I know your name. Think about it. How could I know that, She tilted her head, stepping back, removing her lab coat. A human who knows about the Daleks and the Time War. If you want to know how, then keep us alive. That's all I'm asking, me and my friends. Yeah, Selene cut in. The Daleks, Time War, me too. Yeah, Rajesh added, and me. You will be necessary, the Black Dalek decided, spinning to face another. Report, what is the status of the Genesis Ark? It was then that Jessie noticed the oddly shaped container behind them. Status hibernation, another Dalek reported. Commence awakening. The black Dalek put its suction thing against the ark. The Genesis ark must be protected above all else. I thought you said the Daleks were all dead, Celine hissed Jessie, not lowering her gun. Jessie shook her head. Never mind that. What in the name of the 9 realms is the Genesis ark? What's down there? Sky asked the doctor later as he thought fiercely. She was in that room with the sphere. What happened to Jessie? I don't know, he admitted. Sky put a hand over her mouth and tears began to streak down her cheeks. He straightened and walked over to her. I'll find her, he assured her. I brought you here. I'll get you both out. You and Jessie. Sky, look at me. He put a hand on her shoulder. Look at me. She finally did, her eyes red. I promise you, he whispered. I give you my word. Sky swallowed and nodded as the cyber leader clomped up to Yvonne, who was sitting at her desk. You will talk to your central world authority and order global surrender, it said. Yvonne snorted. Oh, do some research. We haven't got a central world authority. You have now. I will speak on all global wavelengths. It raised a fist and its eyes lit up. This broadcast is for humankind. The doctor put on his 3D glasses, frowning and looking the cyber leader over. Sure enough, it was covered in all that void energy. He checked the others, seeing the same thing. The Cybermen now occupying every landmass on this planet, but you need not fear, the cyber leader stated. Cybermen will remove fear. Cybermen will remove sex and class and color and creed. You will become identical. You will become like us. After a few minutes, there was screaming heard down in the streets. The doctor looked out the window with Sky to see soldiers in the street, engaged in a firefight between the Cybermen and soldiers. London burning around them. The cyber leader appeared confused. I ordered surrender, it stated. They're not taking instructions, the doctor said, turning to it. Don't you understand? You're on every street. You're in their homes. You've got their children. Of course they're going to fight. Which one of you is least important? Jessie turned to the black Dalek, the one who had spoken. What's that supposed to mean, she asked. Which one of you is least important, he repeated. No, Jessie said firmly. We don't work like that. None of us. Disintegrate the least important. This is my responsibility, Razash said, trying to get past Jessie. No, Jessie whispered. Just, you don't. I represent the Torchwood Institute, Razash said, ignoring Jessie and standing in front of the 2 women. Anything you need, you come through me. Leave these 2 alone. You will kneel, the black Dalek said. What for, Razash said. Kneel. Razash finally did, and the black Dalek rolled up behind it. The Daleks need information about current Earth history. Yeah, well, I can give you a certain amount of intelligence, but nothing that will compromise Homeland Security, Razash said. Speech is not necessary. We will extract brainwaves. Jessie's eyes widened as 3 dog plungers enveloped Razash's head. He squirmed. Don't! I'll tell you anything you need. No! No! Jessie had to turn away when Rosh screamed as he died. The cyber leader turned. Scans detect unknown technology active within sphere chamber. Cybermen will investigate, another Cyberman said. Units 1065 and 1066 will investigate sphere chamber, the cyber leader ordered. The 2 Cybermen stiffened. We obey. The doctor watched them leave. Now we'll find out what Jessie is with, he told Sky, who merely nodded, unable to speak. Jessie looked back as the corpse of Razash fell onto the floor, and she held a hand over her mouth to avoid gagging. His mind spoke of second species invading Earth, infected by the superstition of ghosts, the Black Dalek stated. You didn't need to kill him, Jessie protested. Neither did we need him alive, one of the other Daleks countered. The black Dalek turned to another. Dalek Thay, investigate outside. The Daleks called Thay, replied, I obey, and rolled out the door. Units, open visual link, the cyber leader ordered. The doctor leaned forward when a camera link fizzled onto Yvonne's laptop. Visual contact established. And the doctor's eyes widened, and he actually took a step back when he saw the Dalek roll into view. Identify yourself, it stated. You will identify first, one of the Cybermen countered. State your identity. You will identify first. Identify! That answer is illogical. You will modify. Daleks do not take orders. You have identified as Daleks. Sky turned to the doctor, her eyes widening. Jessie said about the Daleks, she whispered. She was terrified of them. What had they done to her, Doctor? Is she dead? Phone, he hissed back. Sky blinked. What? Phone. She handed it to him quickly. Follow in the wake of your sphere, the Cyberman continued. Online resembles the inferior species known as Cybermen, the Black Dalek stated. So that's where they are, Celine muttered. Long-range scans confirm the presence of crude cybernetic constructs on the worldwide scale. Jessie felt it vibrating in her back pocket, and she pulled it out, looking down at the caller ID. Sky. Swallowing, she held it down, but pressed the answer button. The doctor sighed in relief when Jessie answered. She answered, he told Sky, leaning down so both of them could hear. She's alive. Why haven't they killed her yet? Sky glared at him. Well, don't complain. They must need her for something, the doctor muttered. We must protect the Genesis Ark, a Dalek voice said from the other end. The doctor narrowed his eyes. The Genesis Ark? One of the Cybermen from down below spoke. Our species are similar, though your design is intelligent. The Dalek down there spoke as well. Daleks have no concept of elegance. This is obvious, but consider, our technologies are compatible. Cybermen plus Daleks. Together we could upgrade the universe. The doctor inhaled sharply. You propose an alliance? Sky whimpered a little. That is correct, the Cyberman agreed. The Dalek was silent for a while, but for a horrible moment the doctor thought the Dalek was seriously going to say yes. Then, request denied. The doctor closed his eyes in relief as the Cybermen raised their arms. Hostile elements will be deleted. Exterminate. The Cybermen were promptly destroyed, and the Cyber Leader stomped over. Open visual link, it ordered. Jessie looked up when a large Cyberman appeared on the view screen the Daleks had been using to witness the interaction between the Cybermen and their Dalek. Daleks be warned, the Cyberman stated. You have declared war upon the Cybermen. That's it, Celine whispered. That's the Cyber Leader. This is not war, the Black Dalek countered. This is pest control. We have 5 million Cybermen. How many are you? 4. You would destroy the Cybermen with 4 Daleks. We would destroy the Cybermen with 1 Dalek. Is that true? Celine asked. Jessie nodded numbly. Yeah, they could. You are superior in only one respect, the Dalek continued. What is that? The Cyber Leader asked. You are better at dying. Rise communication barrier. Jessie watched the screen fizzle out, but her eyes widened when she saw a glimpse of the doctor behind the Cyberman. Wait, another Dalek called out. Rewind image by 9 rels. It did, and Jessie smiled when she saw the doctor. Identify grid 7 gamma frame. The male registers as enemy. The Black Dalek turned to Jessie. The female's heartbeat has increased. Celine smirked. Tell me about it. Jessie blushed as the Dalek continued. Identify him. Alrighty then, Jessie said, straightening. If you really want to know. That's the doctor. The Daleks all simultaneously squeaked back. Jessie laughed. 5 million Cybermen, easy. 1 doctor? Now you're scared. The doctor winced, hearing the feedback on Sky's phone. Lost her, he muttered, handing Sky her phone back. Communications barrier. Quarantine the sphere chamber, the Cyber Leader ordered. Start emergency upgrading. Begin with these personnel. And Sky was promptly yanked away from the doctor, and Yvonne was taken as well. No, you can't do this, Yvonne shouted. We surrender! We surrendered! Another Cyberman turned to the doctor. This one, his increased adrenaline suggests that he has vital Dalek information. Stop them! Sky screamed as she was dragged away, herself not strong enough to entirely fight back. I don't want to go. She looked at the doctor, fear and terror in her eyes. You promised me. You gave me your word. I demand you leave that woman alone, the doctor shouted at the Cybermen. I won't help you if you hurt her. They didn't listen, and the doctor turned to Sky helplessly. Sky, don't fight, he told her, and he saw her look at him. I'll think of something. Cyber threat is irrelevant, the Dalek called Thay stated as he rolled back inside the sphere chamber. Concentrate on the Genesis Ark. Why are we being kept alive? Celine asked as the Dalek gathered around the Ark. They might need me, Jessie muttered. What? Celine asked, surprised as she looked at the Ark. What is it? Sky winced when she heard screams behind plastic curtains. Behind plastic curtains. What happens in there? She asked Yvonne hesitantly. I think they removed the brain, Yvonne replied, sounding sick. She cleared her throat. Sorry, she repeated it. I think they removed the brain, and they put it in a suit of armor. That's what these things are. They're us. Jessie felt like throwing up herself, but the Cyberman next to the plastic curtain clomped up. Next, it stated. Sky glared at Yvonne as she was taken. This is your fault, she accused. You and your Torchwood. You've killed us all. I did my duty for Queen and Country, Yvonne replied numbly. I did my duty. I did my duty. She faced the plastic curtain, swallowing. Oh God, she whispered. I did my duty. Sky closed her eyes and turned away when she heard Yvonne's dying screams. You are proof. The doctor turned to the Cyber Leader, folding his arms. Of what? He asked. That emotions destroy you. Yeah, I am, the doctor agreed. Then his eyes widened slightly when he noticed something. No way. Mind you, he said slowly, starting to believe it was possible. I quite like hope. Hope's a good emotion, and here it comes. A black-clad people materialized around them, and the Cybermen were promptly destroyed. The Cyber leader tried to attack, but the obvious leader of the commandos shot him, and its head exploded. The leader of the group turned to the doctor and took his helmet off, and the doctor's jaw dropped. "Doctor?" the man asked with a grin. "Good to see you again." "Jake?" the doctor asked in surprise. Jake smiled smugly. "The Cybermen came through from one world to another, and so did we." Sky was screaming for the Cybermen to stop when they suddenly did. One of the Cybermen turned. Cyber Leader 1 had been terminated. The other Cyberman turned. "Explain. Download shared files." Sky began to back away slowly, making sure the Cybermen didn't see her. The first Cyberman spoke again. "I will be upgraded to Cyber Leader." And with that, Sky took off running towards the stair. "Defend this room," Jake ordered the commandos as the doctor looked around with his 3D glasses. "Christine, monitor communications. Kill one Cyber Leader, they just download it into another. Move." "You can't just hop from one world to another," the doctor said, still trying to understand everything as he turned to Jake. "You can't. We just did, with these." Jake held up a yellow button on a chain around his neck, and he pulled out another one and tossed it to the doctor. The doctor caught it and looked at it in disbelief. "But that's impossible," he breathed. "You couldn't have this sort of technology." "We've got our own version of Torchwood. They developed it." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Do you want to come see?" "No." Jake pressed his button, and the doctor felt a tug in his gut. When he looked around again, they were in a wrecked room, an exact replica of the lever room, except for how it looked. "Parallel Earth, parallel Torchwood," Jake exclaimed, slinging his gun under his arm. "Except we found out that what the Institute was doing, and the people of the Republic took control." "I've got to get back," the doctor told Jake, hurriedly looking around. "Jessie's in danger, so's her teammate." "That'd be Sky." The doctor froze at the voice and turned from the doorway. The parallel Grant whirled. A few agents in recognizable shield gear came in. "Yes."
Going over for them.
Love you too.
Come down and say hi sometime.
I will.
Be nice to see you.
Okay.
Before I go to work.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's your face will stop.
I
will. Alright, good.
Mhm.
Is everything okay, Noel?
Yeah. The parallel Grant and a few agents in recognizable shield gear came in. "My wife is in a parallel universe," Grant pointed at the doctor. "And as for you, Doctor, at least this time I know who you are." "Right, yes," the doctor said sarcastically. "Fine, hooray, but I've got to get back, right now." "No," Grant replied simply, folding his arms and joining the two of them. "You're not in charge here. This is our world, not yours, and you're going to listen for once." "Oh boy." "I could transport out of here," Celine said, pulling out a yellow button on a chain from her pocket. "But it only carries one, and I'm not leaving you." "You'd follow me anywhere," Jessie said with a snicker. "What did I do to you all those years ago?" Celine smirked. "I guess I'm just stupid." "You're the bravest person I ever met." Celine raised an eyebrow. "Oh, what about the doctor?" Jessie rolled her eyes. "Fine, bravest mutant." Celine swung her gun under her arm, looking over at the Daleks. "Well, I can't think what the Dalek needs with me," she said. "I'm nothing to them." "You could be. Whatever's inside the Ark is waking up. I've seen this happen before." She remembered when the Dalek in Utah. She swallowed. "The first time I saw a Dalek, it was broken. I was dying, but I touched it. The moment I did that, I brought it back to life." As the doctor said, when you travel in time in the TARDIS, you soak up all this background radiation. It's harmless, it's just there, but in the Time War, the Daleks evolved so that they could use it as a power supply. "You know, it's weird to hear you talk technical when I'm used to it being Bruce and Stark," Celine commented. Jessie punched her lightly in the arm. "Shut up." Celine rolled her eyes. "Seriously, though, if the Daleks have got something inside that thing, and it needs waking up, they need you." "You've traveled in time," Jessie pointed out. "Either one of us would do." "But why would they build something they can't open themselves?" "The technology is stolen." Jessie turned, seeing the black Dalek looking at them. "The Ark is not of Dalek design." "Then who built it?" Jessie asked. "The Time Lords. This is all that survives of their home world." Jessie swallowed. "The Time Lords? Then the Daleks must have come somewhere close to the Time War." "What's inside?" she asked. "The future." "When you left this world, you warned us there'd be more Cybermen," Grant explained to the doctor. "So we sealed them inside the factories." "Except people argue," Jake continued. "Say they were living. We should help them." And the debate went on, but all the time the Cybermen made plans. Grant held out his arms. Infiltrated this version of Torchwood, mapped themselves onto your world, and then vanished. And when was this? The doctor asked. 3 years ago. The doctor shook his head. It's taken them 3 years to cross the void, but we can pop to and fro in a second. Must be the sheer mass of 5 million Cybermen crossing all at once. Yeah, Grant said at the start. Celine said you rattled off that sort of stuff. Oh, the doctor looked around, looking for the ginger mutant. Where is the icicle girl? She went ahead first, Grant sniffed. Any chance to go and find Miss Jessie Nightshade? She's your partner, the doctor said, turning to him, folding his arms as he leaned against the wall. You do know that. Did Celine explain? She's not mine, Grant replied, looking over to a window. She's the partner of a dead man. He nodded at the window. Look at it. The doctor joined him. Jake stood behind them. The doctor looked down at the parallel London, looking around. A world of peace. They're calling this the Golden Age. The doctor raised an eyebrow. He had heard that before. Who's the president now? A woman called Harriet Jones. Of course, the doctor huffed. I'd keep an eye on her. But it's a lie. Grant leaned on his arm, looking at him. Temperature have raised by 2 degrees in the past 6 months. The ice caps are melting. They're saying all this is going to be flooded. That's not just global warming, is it? He couldn't lie. No. It's the breach. The doctor groaned. Humans. I've been trying to tell you. Travel between parallel worlds is impossible. Then the Daleks break down the wall with a sphere. Grant looked at him in confusion. Daleks? The doctor ignored him. Then the Cybermen traveled across the new lot, these discs, he said, pointing to the said object in Jake's hand. Every time you jump from one reality to another, you rip a hole in the universe. This planet is starting to boil. Keep going, and both worlds will fall into the void. But you can stop it? Grant asked. The famous doctor? You can seal the breach? Leaving 5 million Cybermen stranded on my Earth. That's your problem, Grant quipped, and even Jake looked a little startled at that. I'm protecting this world and this world only. The doctor frowned. He shook his head. Grant Ward, I liked you better when you were dead. Grant blinked in surprise as the doctor looked at him. Now, here you are, fighting the fight alone. There is a chance back on my world. He looked him in the eye. Skye might still be alive. Grant faltered at that. My wife died. The doctor raised an eyebrow. Her partner died before she even got a chance to truly know him. Good match. Grant took a shaky breath. There's more important things at stake, Doctor. Help us. The doctor folded his arms. What? Close the breach, stop the Cybermen, defeat the dogs? Do you believe I can do that? Grant answered with no signs of hesitation. Yes. The doctor grinned. Maybe that's all I need. Off we go, then. He couldn't even begin to voice how happy he was to be back in the normal Torchwood. Grant and Jake with him. First of all, I need to make a phone call. He raised an eyebrow. You don't mind? Jake pointed at 2 commandos. You two, guard the door. The doctor ran into Yvonne's office and punched a number he knew from when Jessie made calls. Skye answered on the first ring. Oh my god, help me, she shrieked. Correction. Now he was really happy. Skye, you're alive, he breathed in relief. Listen. They tried to download me, but I ran away. Shush, the doctor ordered, seeing the look on Grant's face and the small smile on Jake's. Listen, tell me, where are you? I don't know. Does the staircase help much? Which one? The doctor asked, but couldn't help but smile a little at how snarky she was being. Is there any sign of a sort of sign, anything to identify it? Yeah, a fire extinguisher, she yelled. The doctor jerked the phone back, looking at it in surprise. Yeah, that helps. Wait a minute. Sign. It says N3. The doctor nodded. North corner, staircase 3. Just keep low. Skye, we're trying our best. He hung up, putting the phone down and looking at Grant, raising an eyebrow. Skye, unknown origins in last name. Grant shook his head, but still looked a little dazed. She's not my wife, he insisted. No, she's not, the doctor granted. She's never married in this world, and from what I've heard, she never had an interest in dating after you died. He turned to Jake, holding out his hand for the gun. Now, then, Jakey boy, if I can open the bonding chamber on this thing, it'll work on polycarbite. What's polycarbite? Jake asked, handing the gun over. The doctor used the sonic screwdriver. Skin of a Dalek. The doctor turned from the ark, turning to Jessie and Celine. Final stage of awakening, one of the Daleks said. Your handprint will open the ark, the Dalek told Jessie. Jessie snorted. Yeah, well, tough, because I'm not doing it. Obey, the Daleks turned to Celine, who sniffed. Or your female friend will die. Jessie swallowed, looking at Celine. I can't let them, she said softly. Jessie, don't, Celine hissed, but Jessie stepped forward anyways. Place your hand upon the casket, the Black Dalek ordered. All right, Jessie said angrily, walking forward. You're going to kill us anyway, so what the hell? She stopped, inspiration hitting her, in a cause to delay. If you escaped the Time Worm, don't you want to know what happened? Place your hand. What happened to the Emperor? The Black Dalek turned to her. The Emperor survived? It asked in what seemed like surprise. Jessie smirked. Till he met me, she crowed. Because if those things are going to be my last words, then you're going to listen. I met the Emperor, and I took the time vortex, and I poured it into his head, and turned him into dust. She smirked. Do you get that? The god of all Daleks, and I destroyed him. Ha! The Daleks turned to her, all of them angry. You will be exterminated. Oh, now hold on. Jessie closed her eyes in relief when she heard the familiar voice, and the doctor walked in, wearing those 3D glasses of his. Wait a minute. Alert! Alert! The Black Dalek screeched. You are the doctor. Your sensors report is unarmed, another doctor reported. That's me, the doctor confirmed, walking up. Always. Then you are powerless, the Black Dalek stated. Not me, the doctor said. Never. He turned to Jessie in concern. How are you? Oh, same old, she said, smiling and giving him a hug. You know. Good. He turned to Celine, grinning. And Celine. Nice to see you. Celine smirked, returning the fist bump he offered. You too, boss. Social interaction will cease. The doctor turned to the Daleks in annoyance as the black one spoke again. How did you survive the Time War? By fighting on the front lines, the doctor replied matter-of-factly. I was there at the fall of Arcadia. Someday I might even come to terms with that, but you lot ran away. We had to survive. The last 4 Daleks in existence. He turned on his heels, looking them all over. So what's so special about you? Doctor, they've got names, she whispered in his ears. Daleks don't have names, do they? One of them said they. I am Dalek Thay. Dalek Sek, the black one said. Dalek Jast, Dalek Khan. The doctor grinned. So that's it, at last. The cult of Psychro. I thought you were just a legend. Who are they? Jessie asked. A secret order above and beyond the Emperor himself, the doctor exclaimed. Their job was to imagine, think as the enemy thinks, even dare to have names, all to find new ways of killing. But that thing, Celine said, nodding at the Ark, they said it's yours. I mean, Time Lords. They built it. What does it do? I don't know. Jessie blinked as the doctor said it. Never seen it before. But it's Time Lord, Jessie insisted. Both sides had secrets, the doctor said, turning to Dalek Sek. What is it? What have you done? Time Lord science will restore Dalek supremacy. What do you mean? What sort of Time Lord science? What do you mean? They had one touch from a time traveler would wake it up, Jessie supplied. Technology using the one thing a Dalek can't do, the doctor sniffed, leaning in close to her Dalek Sek's eye stalk. Touch. Sealed and tied your casing, not feeling anything ever from birth to death, locked inside a cold metal cage, completely alone. He shook his head. That explains your voice. No wonder you scream. The Dalek will open the Ark. The doctor scuffed, stepping away. The doctor will not, he mocked. You have no way of resisting. The doctor tilted his head. Well, you got me there. Although, he held up his sonic screwdriver, raising an eyebrow. There's always this. A sonic probe? The Dalek Sek asked. The doctor looked offended. That's screwdriver. It is harmless. Oh yes, the doctor agreed, looking at it fondly. Harmless is just a word. That's why I like it. Doesn't kill, doesn't wound, doesn't maim. But I'll tell you what it does do, he grinned. It's very good at opening doors. He pressed the button and the doors to the library blew in. Jake came in through the smoke with the Cybermen, all their guns blazing. Delete, the Cybermen chorused. Delete, delete. Alert, the Dalek shouted. Casing impaired, casing impaired. Jessie, get out, the doctor shouted. Jessie began moving her way through the crossfire when she tripped over wires. She fell towards the ground when hands caught her. She looked up and her eyes widened when she met Grant's gaze. Come on, he told her, helping her stand up. Celine, come on, Jessie shouted to her best friend, who was working on getting her way through as well. Adapt to weaponry, one of the Daleks shouted. And Sek responded. Firepower restored. Jessie ran with Grant towards the doors, and she heard sizzle and Celine's sharp yelp of pain. Her eyes widened when she saw Celine jerk her hand from off the Ark, and she and Jake ran to join them. The doctor sealed the door behind them. Jake, check the stairwell, he ordered. The rest of you, come on. I just fell, Celine said as they ran. I didn't mean to. Celine, without us, they would have opened it by force, the doctor said. To do that, they'd have to blow up the sun. You've done us a favor. He grabbed her, kissed the top of her head, and Jessie smirked. Now run. They kept running, securing guns for Jessie and Grant. When they heard Cybermen up ahead, you will be upgraded. No! A familiar voice screamed out, and Jessie wasn't the only one who stiffened. You can't! Please! Grant grabbed the huge gun from Celine and promptly fired at the 2 Cybermen standing in front of them. Jessie's eyebrows shot up when she saw that both of them were destroyed in one go. revealing a crouched Sky behind them. Sky blinked in astonishment, then her jaw dropped. Grant? Grant gave a small smile. Hello, Sky. Jessie brought her hands up to her mouth, and Celine and the doctor shared knowing looks. I knew they were ghosts, but that's not fair, Sky said, standing up straight. Why him? Grant shook his head. I'm not a ghost. But you're dead, Sky protested, as if trying to believe it herself. You died months ago. It's Grant from a different universe, the doctor tried to explain. There are parallel universes, Sky. Every single decision we make creates a parallel existence, a parallel dimension where... Sky sent him a dirty look. Oh, you can shut up. And for once in his life, at least in the time Jessie had known him, the doctor nodded and stepped back, leaving the two of them to talk it out. Sky tilted her head, looking at Grant, and looking like she was trying hard not to launch at him. How can you be standing there? She finally asked. I just got lucky, Grant replied with a small shrug. Live my life mostly undercover for S.H.I.E.L.D. for Cybus. He looked at her. You were left on your own. You didn't see anyone else, or... Sky smiled weakly and shook her head. Never anyone else besides my stubborn S.O. It was months, though. She snorted, looking herself over. Look at me, though. Finally got out of the van. Got into S.H.I.E.L.D. Currently doing anything techie. Not much. You helped bring her up to speed, Grant said, tilting her head a little, indicating Jessie. Jessie Nightshade. That's not bad. Yeah. Grant cleared his throat. In my world, everything came clean. Hydra was gotten rid of before they could do anything. Worked through Cybus, got my way up pretty high. Made me rich. I don't care about that. Sky tilted her head, though, then asked a little hesitantly, How rich? Grant sparked. Very. I don't care about that, followed by her asking again, How very? Jessie couldn't help but smile into her hands, and Celine squeezed her shoulder as Grant swallowed. Thing is, though, Sky, you're not the same. I'm sorry, but you're not. Sky bit her lip, obviously trying not to move forward, and from Grant's stance, it was the same for him. I mean, we both, it's just sort of... He promptly gave up with a shuddering sigh. Oh, come here. She ran forward immediately, right into him, and both of them hugged fiercely. And Jessie gave them a huge grin. At least something's gone right today. And then the cyber leader's voice resonated throughout the tower. Emergency. All units will converge on the Torchwood Tower. Repeat, all Cybermen to Torchwood. And that would be my cue, the doctor stated before running off. Alonzi? Jessie watched as the doctor looked inside of the warehouse, and she sucked in a breath when she saw the Daleks completely invincible as they shot their way through the Cybermen. The doctor sneered and sneaked inside and grabbed 2 magnaclips before dodging fire to get back. Come on, Jessie hissed, please. The doctor made it inside and then looked back out, his 3D glasses on. He made a noise, then took them off and looked up. Elevate, Daleks Act announced, and it began to raise up as the roof opened up. What are they doing? Jessie asked. Why do they need to get outside? Time Lord Science, the doctor muttered as the group headed back to the hallways. What Time Lord Science? What is it? He made a decision and began to run. We've got to see what it's doing. We've got to go back up. Jessie winced as they kept running. Come on, all of you, top floor. There's 45 floors up, Sky protested, taking the gun Grant had offered her. Believe me, I've done them all. There was a ding from behind them, and Jessie stopped, turning as Jake poked his head out. We could always take the lift, he suggested with a smirk. Jessie followed the doctor out of the lift into a window, and Jessie's eyes widened when she saw the Genesis Arc open, and shooting Daleks everywhere as it spun. Oh my god, she gasped. The doctor swallowed audibly. Time Lord Science, he said numbly. It's bigger on the inside. Did the Time Lords put those Daleks in there? Celine asked. What for? It's a prison ship. Jessie looked at him in horror. How many Daleks? She asked, not sure if she wanted to know. Millions. Grant shook his head. I'm sorry, but I've had it, he said, stepping out into the living room. This world's going to crash and burn. There's nothing we can do. We're going home. The commandos gathered around, and Celine sipped on her button, Jake next to her. Grant turned to Sky, handing her a button as well. Sky, take this. You're coming with us. Jessie swallowed as Sky looked at him incredulously. But they're destroying the city. Grant smiled grimly. I've forgotten, you could argue. It's not just London, it's the whole world. But there's another world waiting just for you. Sky, it's safe as long as the doctor closes the breach. He looked over at Jessie's shoulder, and his eyes narrowed in confusion. Doctor? The doctor turned, and Jessie started when he was revealed to have 3D glasses on again. Oh, I'm ready, he said with a grin. I've got the equipment right here. Thank you, Torchwood. He began working at one of the computers. Slam it down and close off both universes. Reboot systems, a female voice said smoothly. But we can't just leave, Jessie protested. What about the Daleks, the Cybermen? They're part of the problem. That makes them part of the solution, he said with a grin. Oh, yes. He then realized no one was looking at him impressed, and he pouted. Well, isn't anyone going to ask me what it is with the glasses? Jessie smirked at him. What is it with the glasses? I can see, that's what, he replied gleefully, and Jake looked at him in confusion. Because we've got two separate worlds, but in between the two separate worlds, we got the void. There's where the Daleks were hiding, and the Cybermen traveled through the void to get here. And you lot, one world to another via the void. He got off topic a little. Oh, I like that, via the void. He took the glasses off and handed them to Jessie. Look, I've been through it. Do you see? He moved around a little, and Jessie's eyes widened when she saw the speckles around his form. Reboots in 3 minutes. What is it? She asked. Void stuff, the doctor replied with a grin. So it's like, she snapped her fingers. Background radiation. That's it, the doctor agreed. Look at the others. She did, looking. The only one not covered with things was Sky. And the only one who hasn't been through the void, Sky. First time she's looked normal in all her life. Hey, Sky shouted. But the Daleks lived inside the void, the doctor said, ignoring Sky. They're bristling with it. Cybermen, all of them. I just opened the void in reverse. The void stuff gets sucked back inside. Pulling them all in? Jessie asked, grinning. The doctor nodded. Pulling them all in. Jessie raised her hand. Sorry, but what's the void? The dead space, the doctor replied. Some people call it hell. So you're ending the Daleks and the Cybermen to hell. Celine smirked at Jake. Man, I told you he was good. Wait, Jessie said, her mind catching up. It's like you said, we've all got void stuff. Me too, because we went to that parallel world. We're all contaminated. We'll get pulled in. The doctor nodded slowly. That's why you've got to go. Jessie's eyes widened when she realized what he was saying. What? She whispered in disbelief. Reboot in 2 minutes. Back to Grant Worlds, the doctor confirmed, then looked over at him. Hey, we should call it that. Grant's World. He looked back to Jessie, apology in his eyes. I'm opening the void, but only on this side. You'll be safe on that side. And then you close it? Grant asked, just to make sure. For good? The doctor nodded. The breach itself is soaked in void stuff. In the end, it'll close itself, and that's it. Kaput. But you stay on this side? Jessie asked, bristling. But you'll get pulled in, Celine protested. That's why I got these. The doctor held up the magna clips. I've just got to hold on tight. I've been doing it all my life. She stared at him. I'm supposed to go. The doctor nodded. Yeah. Jessie blinked. To another world, and then it gets sealed off, she said slowly. He nodded again. Yeah. Forever. He turned away, fiddling a computer terminal. Jessie stared at it back, then laughed, shaking her head. That's not going to happen. We haven't got time to argue, Grant said. The plan works. We're going, you too, all of us. No, Jessie said firmly, turning to them. I'm not leaving here. I'm not going without her, Sky stated. Grant rolled his eyes. Oh my God, we're going. I've had months without you, so shut it, Sky snapped at him. I'm not leaving her. You've got to, Jessie said. Sky sniffed. Well, that's tough. Jessie closed her eyes. Sky? Reboot in 1 minute. She ignored the computer. I've had a life with you for years, but then I met the doctor and all the things I've seen him do for me, for you, for all of us, for the whole stupid planet and every planet out there. She shook her head. He does it alone, Sky, but not anymore, because now he's got me. She felt something go around her neck, cool and metal, and she looked down in time to see one of those yellow buttons. Cold horror filled her, and she turned around to look at the doctor, who was staring at her sadly. What are you? She felt a tug in her gut, and the next time she looked around, they were in a different Torchwood, but still the same Torchwood. Oh, no, you don't, she spat. He is not doing that to me again. She slapped her button again, feeling the tug again. I think this is the on switch. She knew it was when the doctor stormed up to her, looking at her in shock. Once the breach collapses, that's it, he told her, grabbing her shoulders and shaking her. You'll never be able to see her again. You're best friends. I made my choice a long time ago, she spat back, and I'm never going to leave you. The doctor stared at her in shock some more, his hands going limp. She took a deep breath. So, what can I do to help? Systems rebooted, the computer announced. Open access. The doctor let her go, nodding to the terminal. Those coordinations over there, set them all at 6. She nodded, running over. She winced when he snapped at her. And hurry up. She began working, and she smiled when she heard the computer again. Levers operational. Jessie smiled at the doctor when he grinned as well. That's more like it, she encouraged. A bit of a smile. The old team. Hope and Glory, the doctor crowed, picking up the magna clamps. Mutt and Jeff, Shiver and Shake. Jessie raised an eyebrow. Which one's Shiver? She asked. He gave her a coffee, grinned. Oh, I'm Shake. He handed her a magna clamp, and she ran over to the lever on the right side of the wall. Press the red button, he told her, and she fastened the magna clamp on the wall. She moved her lever, and the doctor did the same. When it starts, just hold on tight, he told her. Shouldn't be too bad for us, but the Daleks and the Cybermen are steeped in void stuff. Are you ready? She nodded, then saw something move outside the window. She swallowed. So are they. The doctor looked and saw the Dalek move towards them. Let's do it. Jessie pushed her lever up to the on position, then ran for her magna clamp as the computer announced, online. She grabbed her magna clamp as bright light filled the room from the void, and she clung on when a sharp wind tried to tug her away. She winced against the bright light, but she grinned when Cybermen and Daleks began flying past. The breach is open, the doctor cried gleefully. Into the void. Ha! Jessie cringed at him, but then there was an explosion of sparks nearby, and she covered her eyes again. And then the computer made another announcement, one that made her heart almost stop. Offline. Jack? Captain Jack Harness looked up from his files when Gwen Cloper approached. Yeah, he asked. Gwen swallowed and then looked at her as Ianto Jones joined her. That battle a few days ago, she said, the Battle of Canary Wolf. Jack put his files down and straightened. Oh yes, he knew about Canary Wolf, and it was something the doctor had to be involved in. What about it? Jessie swallowed, closing her eyes. She let one hand off of her magnet clamp and reached for the lever, but she couldn't reach it. She swallowed again, then let go of her clamp entirely. She flew toward the voids, but somehow she managed to grab onto the lever. She adjusted her grip even as she was pulled toward the voids. Jessie! She heard the doctor shout in worry. She shook her head, gritting her teeth and pushing. I've got to get it upright, she called back. She put all of her Asgardian strength into it, and she thought she heard a faint singing in her mind, and she felt the lever begin to move. And finally, she managed to set it right. Online and locked. What about it? Jack repeated when he got no words out of either Gwen or Ianto. Ianto cleared his throat, looking at his files he held in his hand. Well, he said slowly, the casualty list came through. Gwen and I were looking through them. Jack raised an eyebrow. And? Ianto looked very uncomfortable, and he spared one look at what he held before handing them to Jack. Take a look. Jessie felt the suction get stronger, and he gritted her teeth some more, pouring all of her strength into hanging onto the lever. She put her powers to use, but even still, her strength was weakening. Jessie! The doctor shouted to her, sounding panicked. Hold on! Hold on! I'm trying, she shouted back faintly. Jack still wasn't entirely sure what he was looking at, for as he flipped through the pages, but there was a lot of names. But then he saw one that caught his eye. Sky. He froze, his eyes darting up to Ianto and Gwen. Both of them looked at him sadly. Keep going, Gwen whispered. The last of the dogs flew past her, but one of them banged into the wall next to her. Startled, she let her concentration slip, and she lost her grip on the lever. There were still a few more pages, as Jack sincerely hoped that he wouldn't find another name he recognized. But by the look Ida was giving him and Gwen closing her eyes and looked away, he knew he would. In fact, the next name he saw scarred him even more. Celine Harper. He swallowed, looking up at the two of them. Tell me that's the last one, he pleaded. Gwen started to cry. One more. She screamed in shock as the situation pulled her in, but she could feel it weaken, but she couldn't get a grip on her powers again. The suction stopped, but she was going too fast. She knew it. Her concentration had broken, a flaw that many had tried to correct out of her. The last thing Jessie thought before slamming into something and heard a sickening crack she knew was her, was that it really had been the death of her. Grant looked down at the button in his hand, and he closed his eyes, putting it away. It stopped working, he said, turning to Celine and Sky, both of them sitting down, Sky with tears going down her cheeks. He did it. He closed the breach. Sky wiped out her face, and even Jake swallowed as he looked at the wall where the breach was on the other side of the universe. Jack found the name. His eyes widened in shock, and he looked up at Gwen and Ida in shock. No, he whispered. Gwen shook her head, sniffing. I couldn't believe it either. Ida swallowed. I'm sorry, he offered weakly, and he had tears in his eyes too. Jack looked back down at the files in his hands, and he closed his eyes, making a decision. We're flying to D.C. tomorrow, he said, slowly standing up. To Triskelin. Gwen nodded and left, still sniffling. Ayana squeezed Jack's arm sympathetically before following her. Jack closed his eyes, still not believing the name that jumped out at him. She should have survived. Out of all of them, he didn't expect her. Then again, with the doctor, he supposed everything was to be expected. He took one last look at the file, and tears finally started to fall. One of them dripped down, blurring the name, and he could still read it. Jessie Nightshade. Okay, that is the end of this video. Peace out, Knights.